What's happening? Hello. We are live. Hi, everyone. We have with us. Well, first, let's. This is an e-commerce SEO webinar with Duda. We This is the first episode. We are fortunate and lucky enough to have Aleda with us. We're going to talk about an interesting topic, and I'll introduce Aleda for those of you who don't know, which is probably impossible for people not to know who Aleda is at this point. But when Anton approached me about these webinars, we wanted to do something about e-commerce. And instead of doing like a very broad, easy topic for the first webinar, we decided to do a chat about the SEO side in shifts in e-commerce inventory. And I think this is a good time for this conversation because we are headed into the holiday season. And I also thought of this because Aleda and I both did a presentation on this. And I think for me, it was the last presentation of right before the pandemic, 2020. It was February in San Jose, SMX West. And you and I did a talk about this particular topic, but we talked about the technical aspect of this. So I just wanted to expand on this, and I wanted to have you over and have a conversation about this. Prepared a few questions, but I'm going to introduce you. I'm going to introduce you for those who haven't met you. And Aleda Solis is an SEO consultant, founder of Aranti. But she's a boutique. It's a boutique SEO consultancy. She's a speaker. She's an author. She shares the latest news and resources in SEO on SEO FOMO newsletter. She has a digital marketing newsletter called Marketing FOMO. SEO tips in the Crawling Mondays video series, and free SEO learning roadmap called learningseo.io. I think Aleda may have cloned herself so she can be productive and create all of these resources for us, because I don't know how she does this all by herself. Hello, Aleda.
Hello. How are you? So very happy to be here. Excited to be able to hang out today, even if
Right?
virtually only. Yes.
I like this format. I like to be able to have a conversation. I like to be able to kind of just like jump laterally as we talk about this, and it keeps us going. And I think we're going to answer some really interesting questions for, especially this is more geared towards agency side, right? So we're going to approach this more from like an agency perspective. And I think this is awesome because on our end at Top Hat Rank, we work with a lot of e-commerce brands. And this is the time where we start thinking about how inventory is going to shift. So I'm going to start us off, Aleda. What can cause shifts or changes in inventory for an online store?
Yes. Well, the main causes are whether if the products runs are out of stock, new old products. This is like the main thing. This might happen more frequently depending on the type and nature of stock. So of the store. So for example, if you work for a marketplace, and there are many merchants, and you pretty much don't control the inventory at all.
Right.
This is like the most common scenario. Then it happens all the time, right? On the other hand, if you work on a small boutique store, pretty much offering the same products, and you have your core products that you focus on, that might not necessarily be the core one, but yes, in a lot of e-commerce, especially in marketplaces. Then on the other hand, we have this sort of, let's say, shift in demand, shift and seasonality too, for which you might want to feature a variation of one product, or a new version of the product that might come out from time to time too. So these are other scenarios that can happen too. But I will say that most of the time is because of the life cycle of the product itself.
Right. Which one of these do you most frequently see? I know we saw a lot of shifts in inventory throughout the pandemic because shipping was delayed. It was hard to get products in. But rolling that out, because we're kind of, we're out of that, and things are improving. Which of the causes do you most frequently see, and what kind of SEO issues can arise as a result of that?
Well, I will say that potentially like the top one, right? That will be like the most usual every single time will be seasonality. And then usually the problem is that, let's say when you're an online store or an e-commerce, by default you will look out, or you will use for this sort of shift of inventory of certain products that can come or become available from time to time, but not all the time. And you pay a lot of attention to this type of product pages, but less to your offer pages, less to your campaign pages, certain holiday type of pages, for example, because are not part necessarily of even the same web structure or core product structure. The template, the
Right.
structure of these pages is different, right?
Right.
So you might not necessarily have set rule for those redirect rules or indexation rules, etc., etc., to handle those. And you can completely overlook until, let's say, next year, or when the next big season comes, and then you realize that you hadn't been, or you were not leveraging at all. For example, your Black Friday page, you hadn't even updated the year or updated the content to not necessarily even rank well for it, but also convert it well to get users into your conversion funnel by telling them to fill a form just to be warned or to be alerted when the new promotions comes out,
Right.
right? Things like that.
Right.
That should be very useful. In most cases, I will say the alignment, or let's say the optimization efforts, should be done both from the technical along with the content side of things. But in most cases, like the minimum viable ones should be the technical configuration, right? Setting a redirect, setting a no index, or updating internal links, updating the XML sitemap, updating the schema information or configuration. This is critical to avoid giving not only like the wrong signals to Google, or to over like not even leveraging the popularity of this page or passing its value, but even giving bad UX. And bad UX will also mean bad conversions, or not making the most out of the opportunities to refer to other promotions or that you may want to endorse at that point in time, right? So yes, I will say that this is a scenario I see this happening again and again, and not necessarily only for online stores. This is a scenario that also for service websites, for other websites that are not necessarily only e-commerce ones. They might also have their landing pages for seasonality, their offering, etc., etc. And I see this happening too. So I will say, pay particular attention to this type of pages. The minimum technical configurations are needed, are required. Then the minimum content optimization efforts too, to update the metadata, to make it more accurate, more meaningful. The content to also update the communication of like at what point are you to get that particular promotion, or are you endorsing me to go to a new one or to a different one, or what do you want from me? So in order to communicate well what you're offering, I think it can be a huge opportunity, right? Then there is all the like, I think that this is a scenario that I have seen like gaining popularity in the last few years, is the pre-sale, right? Product, right? More and more we started seeing this with big brands like Nike shoes, right? But more
Right.
and more brands are doing it, and even like not necessarily like let's say manufacturers, but any retailers, like with pre-sales of products. And
Right.
the very typical mistake that I see them doing every single time is to launching the pre-sale product on this URL in a completely different UX and URL structure than the one that is going to have later on in the
Disconnect.
store.
Right.
And then completely disconnected. And then when they actually launch the product, they don't even remove the old page. So the old page continues to rank for the product name, and is the one positioned better. Whenever you look for the product, is the one ranking. You don't know what to do, because many times this page is not even updated. So
Right.
it's still showing the all content of the pre-sale, not even linking to the actual product page that is now being sold at
Right.
this point.
Right.
So super bad UX, bad leverage of the rankings that you have been working for before. 301 redirect. If you
Right.
cannot use from the start the URL that you will end up having eventually in your main store website because of restrictions, whatever, but at least 301 redirect from this all, let's say, the pre-launch page to the actual product where users will end up converting, right?
Right. And oftentimes, do you see that as a result of just miscommunication between departments? Because most of the time, you have like social or paid put up a landing page announcing a product, and then the SEO team is working post factum.
100%. 100. It's definitely lack of communication, lack of an alignment, also lack, let's say, of paying attention of this edge cases, I guess, because again, everybody knows, or most at this point knows that, okay, if a product is out of inventory because it's out of stock, we shouldn't show on our page because it's a
Right.
very common scenario, right? How do you handle that? That might be
Right.
different or less good or less wrong, right? However, this other case, I guess that is less common. So there's a lower awareness, let's
Right.
say, of
Right.
what you should do with it. And as you well mentioned, many of these landing pages, the pre-sale landing pages, are set by a completely different team than the one that handles the product web structure completely. These
Right.
are many times manually created landing pages, editorially driven, created for paid campaigns, social campaigns, etc., not even taking SEO into account. So yes,
Right.
I guess that the alignment with the product workflow and offering a promotion is critical here.
So I mean, like thank you. I mean, like you mentioned a lot of scenarios. Uh, um, so what out of these situations, um, which one? Well, let's take one as an example, and I'll let you choose which one. Um, but can this be something that's broken down into something that can be handled preventatively from an agency perspective, like publishing guidelines, product publishing guidelines, content publishing guidelines? You like essentially planning for this, or are you seeing in your practice that you're being more like reactive, like this is hitting the fan, we got to work?
Yes, I think that at the beginning is more like that because whenever you start working with a new client, you audit the website and you identify all of these issues. So there are two lines of work, right? Fixing the issue that is already harming the top pages that are already getting traffic, that used to get rankings, backlinks, to like minimize the harm as much as possible right away. But
Right.
then on the other hand, you realize that you need to avoid this from happening again because on the other hand, like if you don't do this, you will be chasing bugs the whole
Right.
time that will hold you back and won't allow you to advance, right? So you need to work with the team from a platform dev slash tech side of things, and then also the editorial team to make sure that SEO is integrated within the inventory workflow of those
Right.
particular pages. So I am going to share my screen now, just to show you something because you know that I tend to and I love in general to create little graphs, and I think that you should be seeing my screen right now already,
Let's
isn't
see.
it?
Yep. And it looks like we are.
Perfect. So yeah, so I love to create checklists. I love to create flowcharts to show rules for the most common scenarios and activities on our website to show the involved team, usually the tech team, how the criteria make sense together. What are the different steps and validations and criteria and filters that they need to integrate within the platform? Many times, thankfully, online store platforms can easily integrate this with triggers, with events, integrated with inventory information, etc. So it's not something that they need to build from scratch. There are solutions that are already natively supported that they can leverage in the configuration. But even if so, they better understand how everything aligns together. So this particular flowchart here about should I index a product page URL, right? So Mike, like these are the core questions. Is the
I
product
love this. I love
on
this.
pre-order or pre-sale? So yes, optimize the metadata with pre-order terms, plug product name, link from relevant categories in pre-sale, add product schema with relevant pre-order pre-sale availability, add to the XML sitemap, add to the product feeds with pre-order pre-sale availability, etc., etc. So is the product available in stock? Yes or no? Will the product come back in stock in the future? And this is the typical question when, oh, should we keep the product page even if it is out of stock right now? So it depends if it will come back or not. If it is gone for good, then you will need to 301 redirect to the most relevant indexable parent category and show the message about the discontinued product to user, eliminate internal links, eliminate XML sitemap, eliminate product fit, etc., etc. But if it is going to come back, then 301 redirecting is not the best. So show a stock message and allow users to subscribe to get alert when it's back. Show similar products. Stop linking from relevant product categories because you don't want to endorse this page
Right.
until it comes back. But it is worth it to keep it indexable, especially if it is going back and forth out of or in stock. Because what we know for sure is that Google is becoming much more picky to index pages, to index quick. So if you're changing the page status every single day, back and forth, so there are good chances that eventually they will stop, indexing as fast as you want, right?
Right. Right.
So this is the type of flowchart that I like to show them. And I tell them, look, based on your tech stack right now, the platform that you're using, is this something that you can do already with the current configurations or plugins, etc., a combination of both, etc., or is something that you need to configure from scratch? And based on that, we establish this as a high priority recommendations if they are all the time changing the status of products. If not, then, and there are other very prominent issues that are high impact, like, I don't know, metadata optimization, things like that.
Right.
It might be, put based on that as a nice to have if it is
Right.
not core or critical. So depending on that, this will be implemented within the SEO process, right? But I believe it is critical to show how, like, the criteria, the questions, because like that they will better understand the why, and they
Right.
will better understand how if you show like an error or how many pages go through this, it will be a bad user experience, right? I also like to show always examples of screenshots of pages that are suffering from this issue and how
Right.
many backlinks they can attract, the sort of traffic that is used to have, and the graph going down in Google Analytics, Google Search Console, SEMrush, whatever tool you have available to show this type of insights. And on the other hand, how their competitors or some of their competitors are handling this well and are not suffering from these issues. And whenever you go to an old URL of a product that used to exist, for which you are showing a 404, they are trying to redirecting to a new parent page that is leveraging the old page popularity, right? So I go this path, and I believe that this is core to avoid chasing bugs all the time, to allocate resources for this, even if it will take a little bit of more of an effort to do them in parallel at the start. I am also a big believer of setting something that I like to call a little bit of quality, SEO quality framework. That is, on one hand, education. So whenever I share recommendation and I share something like this, it's a little bit of, I do it at a little bit of a webinar. Showing examples, going through examples, showing how it can be hurtful, showing the criteria. So I allow the team involved to think on solutions based on their own know-how, right? So it's not that I am intruding their space, right? Which is many times what alienate SEOs with the development team, but getting them involved in the solution. And then on the other hand, I like to integrate this as much as possible automatically in the platform. And whatever is not able to be implemented right away, to do like a really good real-time monitoring. And for this, I use solutions like Content King, that is a real-time SEO crawler alerting tool that I can configure, telling, look, for this product line URLs, alert me right away whenever you see any of this becoming no index, or becoming, or showing a 404, or with a broken link, or whatever, something like that. I will be alerted right away. And I can set also like that the alert, rather than going to my mailbox that is full, that it goes to the right Slack channel, so people can take care of that, right? So good alerting
Alita,
system
sorry,
is
you
critical, but
said content key, right?
Content King,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, Content King indeed.
Perfect. Sorry. Go on.
So yeah, so I will say, I mean, like proactive, let's say, actions are fundamental. Don't only rely on I'm crawling all the time, or I'm doing daily crawls, because there's only so much that you will be able to achieve like this, or even with real time crawling. It's critical that you solve the issues with the right validations, integrated validations within the platform.
Right. Wow. Okay. So that's awesome. So let me check back with you for a second there. So that if this then that kind of a chart that you put together, right? I'm assuming you put this together individually for each client, for their unique platform, for their unique brand situations, for their product, right? Because this is some things I would imagine would be universal, like rules for handling things, but others are going to be very specific to the brand.
Yes, in some cases, I know there are certain restrictions, right? So it doesn't make sense to recommend them. An example, right? To implement 301 redirects, because, and this is true story, I have had clients who have no possibility of 301 redirects because of like core issues, and until they migrate their platform, which they know that will happen in 6 months or 12 months, we cannot do this. How do we personalize this? Or we know that these clients are actually using certain plugins or platforms that allow them to do this. So I will try to personalize this as much as possible based on their own context, indeed.
Okay, so let's take a look at a few like quick scenarios, and I kind of want to get into actionable because I feel like a lot of these webinars lack that. I want to get into actionable. I'm going to ask a bunch of questions. Let's answer them. Let's give people some
Let's go
processes,
through them.
right?
Perfect.
Right. Okay, so how would you go about handling the following? Let's start with the first one. Products are removed, creating an influx of 404s. Let's say you have a large set of products for whatever reason. They're discontinued, they're not shipping anymore, they're not coming back. Lots of 404s, or whichever way you're handling it, 410, 404. What's the best practice for handling these? And if what are the positives and what are the negatives? Like, let's say you have like thousands of 404s happening overnight.
Yeah, thousands of 404s happening overnight. You know that these product pages are not going to come back at all, right? 301 redirect to the parent page if you don't have that product or a new version of the product at all, right? An example, maybe I have I have product pages of version 1 of the O90/SEO FOMO mug out of stock, but there is a new one with the new logo. Well, actually, this is the new logo.
Where's the waitlist sign up?
Yeah, so there is a new one for the new logo. So if I know that I can do one-to-one mappings easily from the old product URL to the new one, and there is one that is really the new version with the same type of characteristics, etc. Of course, because it is a new version, there's something else or something extra, but it's literally the new version of the old products. I will say, if it is doable, 301 redirect there.
Right.
In
301
both,
to
right?
the
New
parent
versions.
category or the parent collection, or
So
to a new version of the product.
To a new version of the product, if doable, if it is doable, and if these are new versions of the product for real, right? And you can do the one-to-one mapping.
Right.
If you cannot do the one-to-one mapping, then 301 redirect to the right next level listing slash facet slash category page that is indexable.
Right.
So for example, if you have the mug again, and you have like a next level facet, the mug is in the mugs, cool mugs facets, and this facet page is indexable, then 301 redirect there, because
Right.
it's the one that will describe the mock the best and will
Right.
be the one that will provide all the very similar products for the user to buy instead,
To make
right?
a choice from. Right. Right.
Yeah. Don't 301 redirect to the generic mock category, because yes, won't be non-relevant, it's true, but
Right.
might not necessarily be the type of mug that the
Right.
user is looking
Right.
for. They wanted cool mugs, right?
Right. Right.
So
Right.
yes. Then there's the thing, right? I would say that the ideal scenario here is the first one that I mentioned, mapping the old product URL to the new one at 301 redirect. But there is a big con here. If you're launching new products every 6 months or every year, after 3 years or a couple of years, you can end up having how many 301 redirects from every old product URL to the new one? Three,
Right.
four, after 5 years, how many
Right.
redirect chains you will end up having here, and for up to which point Google will follow all of this redirected or redirect chains, right?
I think
So
it's
you
like
don't want
6
that.
stops, right, per
Indeed.
visit. Right. Right.
Indeed.
Right. Right.
So I wouldn't endorse this or recommend to do this if you know that you will be changing the products anyway, every 6 months or
Right.
every year. On the other hand, and here is another if you know that you will be changing the product versions every 6 months or every year, and this is the exact name of the product. It's like the SEO FOMO mock, and it's only the logo that changed because I'm crazy. I'm changing the logo every 6 months. But all the characteristics, the rest is the same. Maybe you can reuse the URL. I know that this might be tricky, right? But maybe you can reuse the URL if you know that it's part of the nature of your store, right?
Right.
And you don't want to be handling redirects
Right.
like this every single time. So if that's doable, maybe
Right.
stick with a permanent URL for this type of product that you will be updating now,
Right.
back and then, so you can avoid this whole mess of
Right.
redirects anyway. If not, the product mapping and redirect all URL, all product URL to new product URL, if you know that you won't be changing this very often. And if it is not doable, then 301 redirect to the parent facet that is indexable.
Right. I love this. Okay, so you mentioned information architecture. We talked about levels. So here's the scenario: new products enter as, and we're talking scenario where there's a large amount of products entering and exiting, right? And that can become a mess, especially with introduction of new products, new categories. That can become a mess, depending on the platform that you're on. Whether a Shopify kind of like forces you into specific, uh, uh, um, you know, uh, structures, but then other platforms allow you to get creative, which we prefer. So how do you approach information architecture? Large amounts of products are exiting while new products are coming in, and this can create a lot of fluctuations from crawlability, discoverability perspective. How does Aleda approach this?
I have this other flowchart because I am the the flowchart, and this literally is the simplest flowchart ever. So allow me please to share my screen, because
Sure,
this
sure,
guides
sure.
the way that I think about it, about indexing, and then link accordingly, right? No, sorry, it's not as messy as this one. No, it's this one. Literally, it's very simple. So whenever I start working with an online store, and as all of you do, I'm sure, you do this keyword research, competition research, benchmark, discovery of for every product line, every category, brand, to identify characteristics, to identify um, any type of let's say, value or permutation that will go along with the product name or the type of product, right? And then you have all this list of different characteristics that you can connect with them. And here, as you mentioned, it's very easy to say, oh my God, let's create a category or subcategory or a facet for each one of them, because all of them have at least 50 searches per month, something like that. So there's demand, right? However, in order to make it meaningful and relevant for the user, and also for Google to see it as meaningful to index, especially nowadays with what we mentioned before, how tricky it is many times to make Google to index URLs in huge websites.
Right.
Our supply, our unique supply, because we can have end up having a lot of facets or subcategories that it's not only about, let's think about the consequences. It's not only about indexing them, but we'll need to internally link to them, feature them somewhere in our navigation, web structure, web architecture, as you mentioned, well,
Right.
and to make sure to pass enough value and to make it easy for the user to reach to that page in different ways through the navigation too. So from a UX standpoint, it can be also a hassle if we end up creating an online store that will end up having 6 levels, and the last sub facet is literally only linked from the parent facet, and there's no way to reach to this page without clicking 6 times in
Right.
the
Right.
navigation.
Right.
And this particular page will have like the lowest number of internal links
Right.
at all, right? So I think of that. What is the demand? Is there enough search volume? How much traffic we can attract with this page? And then what is the unique supply? Not the supply, because of course, if I an example, if I have again the cool mocks, I can have the cool mocks category, and then, or subcategory, and then I can say, okay, but I see that there are enough people searching for black cool mocks, and then also I see that I have enough there is enough number of searches for white cool mocks. But
Right.
then I realize that I have only one black and I have 3 whites. So even if I think, oh, like I could feature in the cool mocks like 4 in total, I have 3 for the white cool mocks, but I have only 1 for the black cool mocks. So I would say my supply for the black cool mocks facets
Right.
is not enough to compensate, to index this facet page, to try to link it out in a way that makes sense. And anytime that I think of it, it's like, what is the experience that the user will have clicking from search results or clicking from the navigation, landing on this page? Will it compensate the effort to click on it or browse it and seeing only 1 or 2 products? No, right? That for that, you better go to the parent category where you have a much of a diversity of products that will really fulfill the need, right? And will still be useful and usable, easy to use, because that like they are displayed in a way that they are easy to reach. There are not that hundred of products all put together or grouped together in a way that doesn't make sense. It still makes sense. These are the cool mocks. There are
Right.
literally only 5, right? So I think on that, and based on that, the demand, the supply, I set rules to first to create these pages and index them, and set rule for indexing, and then I internally link accordingly,
Right.
trying to make sure as much as possible that every facet, even the most in-depth one, is only 3 clicks away maximum from the homepage, or from some of the pages that are linked from the top, that are linked from the navigation sideway links, right? So I make sure that they are not more than 3 clicks away, that they get enough internal page rank and popularity, and they are endorsed, and there's like, let's say, a consistency in the importance of this category / facet for the potential of demand that they can attract. versus how well it is internally linked and how easy it is for the user to get to it.
Right. So it's kind of like one hand washes the other, right? If we prioritize the user and users accessibility and ability to discover that product, this will in turn help search engines in the same way. If we make it easy for the user, we'll make it easy for the search engine, and vice versa, right? If we make it easy for the search engine from a discoverability perspective, it will also be easier for the user.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and most of the times, right? Because I will say that there are some navigations out there still that are over reliant on JavaScript.
Right.
On JavaScript, that is our only trigger. JavaScript client side render links that many times are not href tags.
Right.
Are global but button tags, and some of this are second layer JavaScript that are actually render after an event, after a click, or something like that are not indexable at all. So again, it depends on it, but yes, usually is on hand, right? It's aligned.
Right. Aleda, so we have a question from Savor the Flavor. Hi, by the way, we're friends. So they're asking if your flowcharts are available as a resource in an article, or is that something that you put, like I said, like we talked earlier, something that you put together for clients specifically?
Yeah, I take variations of this and personalize them for clients, but they are all available in this URL that I share over here in the chat, and that I will appreciate if you can share it with everybody. So I have all of like a little aggregation of the charts that I tend to put together for different scenarios there.
Perfect. And here, I will drop this URL, this link in here in the comments so everybody can see it. Okay. Oh, nope. Maybe Anton, maybe you can do that. Aleda, put it in the private chat. Okay, cool. So this is awesome, right? So we talked about large amounts of products entering, large amounts of products exiting. We talked about information architecture. With that, large amounts of products exiting, from a usability perspective, right? Search engines will take some time to get these pages out of index. Users are going to be searching. They're going to be hitting these 4.4s. What's your trick?
So
I'm getting, hang on. I know you know the answer. What's your trick? Getting large amounts of pages out of index without ruining things for yourself.
Oh, okay. So you took a different angle from the one. So
right.
That is a great question, by the way, but I take, let's say, a little bit of more a creative angle for this. If I see that, as this is especially true for marketplaces, the inventory is shifting all the time, and you have no control, and you have no idea if it is going to take one day, like a few hours, or a week, and the inventory out there. What I tend to do with clients and work with clients, like if these are products that are especially and works well with, especially products that are very, very popular in the market that can attract a lot of traffic, in which scenario this type of issue can be really hurtful, and really affect the fluctuation of traffic of the website. What I do is like, okay, let's create static pages for this. And for example, for, again, sneakers, black Air Jordan sneakers in size 36, right? By the way, like this is my size, so that is like, don't tell me, Aleda, are these kid sizes? What are you talking about? No, it's like, I'm tiny. Thank you very much. So you might think that this is a very long tail query that nobody's searching for, but if you go to any keyword research tool, you will see that there are thousands of people looking for very specific products like this, even with the size, right? But let's say even without the size, like a particular model and a color. So you have 10 merchants at a time selling that particular product with the same color. And you're seeing these merchants listing their products, setting different timings for the bidding or the selling, direct selling, whatever, and you cannot control it. It's difficult, etc. So the best way to address this, I will say, is to set a landing page for the product, for that particular product characteristic, that is static, that where you feature overall testimonials and overall description about the product. When you feature an FAQ to make it unique, and then what you have is like a sort of widget or section within the static page, actually featuring this particular products URLs sold by merchants. And it's a mini listing, let's say, very specific listing within the product page, where people can see how, like, if there's a specific time left, if it is bidding based, or how much the price is if they want to buy it right now, etc.
Right.
And they will have the 6 products or 5 products are sold with the same characteristics there.
Right.
So these URLs are not indexable. They are not even URLs that are crawlable.
Right.
And Google cannot reach them because of the way they are generated, are completely JavaScript based.
Right.
In a way, they are not indexable. And like this, you will address the issue of providing something that is highly dynamic for the vendor, that complies with that nature for that type of products. And then on the other hand, you will have a reliably always index static product
Right.
page that can be used, that will be leveraging and attracting all the backlinks
Right.
whenever a user wants to endorse that particular product on your
Right.
website.
Right.
So especially for those products that have a non-trivial search volume, I would say go ahead with it because it will compensate quickly, right?
Right.
I understand that this cannot be done if you have millions of this very long tail type of search volume that doesn't compensate whatever. But if these are core products of yours, you have many vendors showcasing them, etc. I will say this is the way to go, right?
Okay, so let's what if you don't have the ability to do that? What if these products are just gone? Like, you want to get out of index because, whatever measurements Google uses, right? So because, like, we're not 100% sure. We're speculating, right, when we talk about this. But, like, let's talk about click length and dwell time, right? A bunch of you removed a bunch of products. Index still hasn't updated. People are clicking through. They're hitting 404s. They're coming back. This is diminishing, right? It has diminishing returns. What's the fastest
point
way?
here is that I will never feature the 404s. I mean, 404s only if the product pages never had a single backlink, zero traffic. I will like, that is the worst scenario, right? I will prefer, if you're not sure, if you're, I ask my clients for this also, and I do sort of like a validation.
A therapy session.
With the historical data. Look, we are not sure if it's going to come back or not. Okay, let's go and take a look in your inventory history. Whenever a product comes back on stock, how long it usually is in average after it has gone out of stock. Oh, if it comes back within the next 2 months. If it doesn't come back after 2 months, there's like 5% of the possibility that it will ever come back. Something like that, right? So you want to reach that position and say, okay, then in the first 2 months, this page will stay indexed. We'll say that the product is out of stock. You will update the structured data accordingly. You will update the messaging, being careful of how you word the content, because if you word the content in a certain way, you can get a sub 404 by Google. So be careful with that wording. And then feature alternative for the products too. Allow the people to register, to be subscribed whenever, so they are alerted whenever the product comes back. And keep it for 2 months. Like that. If after the 2 months,
don't throw it away right away.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, don't throw 4. And if after the 2 months, that is the timeline that in average it takes for a product to come back. You have seen that it hasn't come back, and it's very likely that it won't at this point. Do what we mentioned before: 301 redirect to the new version if there's a new version, and if you're not changing all the time, or 201 redirect to the parent facet, more specific, that is indexable, but no 404s. I mean, 404s or 410s, it doesn't matter. It's like only if this page was never worthy in any case,
Right.
right? But yeah.
Right. Right. Can you quickly explain for those that don't know what a soft 404 is?
So a soft 404 is when you configure your page to make it indexable, to handle cache, TP status, meta robots, index, follow, self-canonicalize. I mean, it should be an indexable page. But Google, when indexing or trying to index the page, they realize that the page actually has no meaningful value, or the content that you're showing there is poor, or it's duplicated, or you're not necessarily showcasing something meaningful to be
Right.
indexed.
Not
And
covering the same topic. Right.
indeed, so I have
Right.
seen Google many times showing a 404 in pages, in product pages that are indexable or should be indexable,
Right.
configured to be indexed, but because of the wording of the error message or the out of stock message, they say, it's out of stock. Why do you want to index this? 404. So 404,
Right.
right? And
Right.
it won't be indexed because
Right.
of this. So be careful how you word the messaging, because you want to keep these pages indexed, because and what is important here and what you should be thinking about is like, is the user experience good? Is it
Right.
worthy for my users to land here or to come here? And
Continuity. Right.
if
Right.
and so you, as much as possible, you will align this UX best practices and principles with your own goals too, which is to keep this page indexable, because you don't want to be changing it the whole time,
Right.
and you don't know if the product will come back in a few weeks, right? So
Right.
yeah,
And this is why I love these kinds of conversations, because we're able to sidetrack
there is
and
there is
talk about.
nuance. There is
Right.
nuance. It's beyond the best practices, 100%.
Right. Right. Okay. Now, here's an interesting one, and we deal with this. We deal with this all the time in our practice. There's a shift in demand. Let's say a specific product or a product in a specific category becomes very, very popular. The volume of searches, demand increases. Google starts recognizing this, right? Noticing this. And the SERP starts shifting, right? Let's say we have a fractured SERP. Fractured SERP is where we're covering multiple intents in one search result page. So let's say, best socks for kids or socks for kids, right? And I use this example very frequently in my presentations, right? Google will interpret the query differently and will prioritize in different results based on intent, primary intent, secondary intent, right? So as an example, socks for kids, let's say you're enjoying this query, it's being mapped to your category page or your collection page for all the socks that you have for kids. Now the demand increased, and now you're seeing there's an article from LA Times, 10 best socks for kids. Right.
Yeah.
And we see this happen very, very frequently. What's Aleda's approach to dealing with this?
Oh, you need to be able to compete. And if you see that Google is decreasing the visibility of category pages for this query, that's what you need to see.
Right.
That's
You
what you
give
need
Google what it's
to
asking
know,
for.
right? Like,
Right.
it's like, indeed, I mean, they recognize that the people are looking less or are less compelled or less happy by clicking to category pages, and that is why they are featuring more and more, or at least testing
Right.
to feature, to see how people react by featuring this best of type of articles. And
Right.
that is why e-commerce should allocate certain resources on editorial content that shouldn't be apples to apples to this affiliate related many times articles, because the nature of you as a vendor is different, right? So you shouldn't try to compete with them, because at the end of the day, you only have your own product, right? So you cannot say best 6 products of whatever. But an example, if you only sell jeans, you're a jeans store. Or if you only sell mugs and you're a mug store, you have an edge. You're an actual expert in that particular field. So rather than creating an article that is generic about the best 6 mugs for 2023 or the best 6 jeans for summer 2023, you can come up with something like the best jeans we've seen historically worn in
Right.
summer in the last 10
Right.
years based on
You're
our
still
stats.
addressing the query. You're satisfying intent, but you're
100%, but
providing a
in a
unique
different, with a
viewpoint.
different angle, with a
Right.
different
Right.
angle.
Right.
So
Because
that will make sense for your users. Is insightful information that you're in a unique position to give as a real retailer or brand,
right.
and will provide this different angle that is informational to that will have more of a chance to be featured in these top positions,
Right.
to fulfill the need in a different way. And that is not a commercially driven page, which is what Google is telling you that they don't want to showcase as much anymore.
Right. What's Aleda's best practice for connecting those two assets together, showing Google that we have an asset that covers the commercial intent, and then we have an asset that provides information covers informational intent. What's the mechanics, like linkings, architecture, like how do you handle that?
100%. I hate, and please don't do this. This blocks that are completely disconnected with your online store main website structure and
Right.
navigation, that they look many times like completely different websites. Don't do that.
Right.
Subdirectories, please. This is your guide section, shopping
Right.
guides. You are a retailer, you're a brand, you're in the position to advise to your
Right.
clients as your salespeople do,
Right.
while in person in your store, in your physical store, in case you do have it. But this is what stores do in general, in person stores, right? So think of it like that. This is you guiding very top of the funnel that will help you establish authority, that will help you to get backlinks and to rank in a different way, in a more informational way, if Google is actually showcasing more of this type of results for broad queries, which they will tend to do. And yes, like article section within the same web structure, but featuring the same overall navigation, but just adding a secondary navigation for all the resources within that particular guide section. So top guides for the summer, or top or t-shirts, pants, where like every type of product that you show, you will have your own guide subcategories, right? But that is second layer navigation. Your top navigation continues to be there because
Right.
this is part of your overall web structure. And then, of course, from every article, establish your goals. Your conversion there won't be to sell, please. Your
Right.
conversion there will be to first establish yourself as an authority in the field, to engage the user, to recognize or to engage more with your brand. So like how many pages per session, things like that.
Right.
Or to add or to get their users in your sales funnel. And for that, you will measure and you will showcase and you invite the user to register to your newsletter,
Right.
or to your news, or top next top guides that you publish, alert, or whatever like that. So that too. And of course, internal linking in your article, whenever you mention this type of jeans. Oh, and you know that we have one here that is on sale right now. And
Right.
it cross-link to the sales page for this type of jeans, things like that. So cross-linking here is important. And then, of course, at the end, also, I love this little models showcasing the top products that have to do with the ones that you're talking about, like little snippets of your listings with the
Right.
top 3 products of this type that we have on store,
Within the
just to
category. Right.
endorse a little bit, to
Right.
cross-link, not even for the buying journey, because again, they might not be ready to buy it, so don't expect them to buy right away, but even for cross-linking sake, right? Because your top categories are already linked from the top, but you want
Right.
to endorse this type of products from semantically related content within
Right.
your site, and
Right.
this is it.
And since this is we're kind of focusing this around agencies, right? One of the ways that we pitch this approach when we're working with a brand, because obviously it's always an uphill battle to get a buy-in for any kind of resources to be allocated to build out certain things. One of the things that we do is we approach it from a perspective of, this is also a part of your retargeting funnel, because if somebody lands in the e-commerce aspect on the product page from a commercial intent query and doesn't transact, they can be retargeted with a content piece to come back to the site, right? Okay, so look, this is all really awesome. We have a few questions here. We only have about 5 minutes left. Here you go. Thank you, Anton. So if you need to do 301s, how long do you keep the 301s? Should they be removed after a certain time? If so, what do you do with them?
Forever. Keep them forever as much as you can.
Forever.
So what I do is like literally at least a couple of years. If you go, and this is a good validation to do, go and take a look at these all redirected URLs that you used to have from a couple of years ago,
Right.
and take a look if some of them are still there in the index use side column, or even in the Google Search Console. How many of these all are still shown in the indexing reporting from the Google Search Console with those patterns of the URLs? There might be still a few of them, I'm afraid. And if you go to if you have access, you can go and take a look at how many times these are still trying to be crawled by Google from time to time in your web server log files, if you have access to those, or through your CDN too. How many times the Google bot still tries to call them? I'm afraid it takes years, right? So as long as you can keep them, the best. If you really, really, really need to remove them after a couple of years, I would say, go and take a look if they're attracting any traffic in analytics. Go and take a look if they have any backlinks still pointing to them. And if not, try to update and reach out, like outreach campaign there to update these links. Any rankings that they might still have, somehow at least keep the redirects for this that still have some sort of activity, right? Traffic / backlinks / rankings, right?
And
because it might happen,
if you're running, if and I say this to all the clients, we work with brands large and small. The larger brands have internal resources to constantly crawl and check the technical aspects of their site. Smaller brands often let it go for years, sometimes 2-3 years in a row. And this is something that should become a practice for. This is your platform. It's making you money. Just like you going to the doctor once a year, you should get your platform reviewed. Your e-commerce store should be reviewed at least once a year from a technical perspective to make sure that there's nothing there that can cause potential harm. Okay, 3 minutes left. Final question, important one. So let's say you've done all the work, Aleda. You've accommodated the inventory fluctuation. Can you provide us guidance on monitoring and analyzing SEO performance? What metrics should be tracked to measure the impact of inventory adjustments on search rankings?
Well, depends on the issues that you had in the first place, the challenges that you had, and the goals that you had set for them, the challenges or the opportunities versus that for which you set goals, right? An example, if you started to work on a website that crawlability and indexability issues were core, were important, were a priority. And because of that, one of the goals that you set for that process was to make sure that all of the pages that are meant to be indexed are crawlable, which right now they are not. And then that at least 90% of the pages that are meant to be indexed are actually indexed by Google. Not that are configured to be indexed, but are actually indexed by Google. So if that is my goal, I will be monitoring this through the whole process to ensure that I achieve this goal. This might be achievable not only by changing the configuration that we meant, but many times with indexability is about endorsing this page in every single way, XML sitemap, differentiating the content, internal linking, backlinks, like showing Google that this page is meaningful to index, an example, right? If the goals were not necessarily only so fundamental from a technical configuration standpoint, but it was like, okay, we're losing money year over year, or we're stuck in conversions year over year, just because we haven't been able to handle the out of stock products that come back and forth well. And we have seen that like losing rankings of these product pages that usually tend to convert like this and generate this revenue per year is hurting. Then I will be monitoring that. I will be monitoring rankings, traffic, and conversions, and ultimately revenue from these top product pages that used to be shifting all the time and triggering errors all the times. And now that I have fixed their crawlability and indexability to make it static, to make it permanent, are they actually improving accordingly in rankings, traffic, and conversions? And if not, what else I can do so, because it means that it was not only an issue of indexability but of relevance, popularity, etc. And I want to give more signals to Google so these pages can improve over time accordingly and achieve the conversion results, revenue results that I had set for them, right? So depending on the goals, depending on the issues, I will monitor these areas accordingly.
Right. So your answer is it depends.
It depends, indeed, as usual in SEO. But what is important here is depends on this and this on this particular context,
Right.
and you are
Right.
clear of what are the metrics. Please, I'll always ask to have at least a couple of data sources for the same metric. A lot of people come to me still and ask me, and I won't mention tools, but Aleida, like, how come this third party tool it still shows this in third position, whatever, and I go and look at it myself is an actual second, and then in the Google Search Console we have like, what is the
Averages.
ultimate source of truth here, and what
Right.
actually care about as a
Right.
goal? Is it
Right.
really the position, or is the traffic, or is the conversion? Like, why should we be fixated with a very specific metric that
Right.
is not necessarily like the ultimate
Right.
KPI, right?
Right.
Key
Right. Right.
performance indicator, right? So
Right. It's a
it's
supporting
important to,
KPI. Right.
yeah, indeed. So we need to
Yeah.
be able to explain this, to set the right expectations, and to manage this to so it's not only that we do a good work, but it also come across as we have achieved our goals.
Jerry.
I love Jerry.
Jerry.
Jerry with
Jerry with a
Y for the win.
commentary.
Love it.
Awesome. Aleda, you're amazing. I love you so much. Just brilliant. How can people get in touch with you? Where can people reach you? I know there's a lot of resources out there, but like, let's say I'm a brand and I want to work with Aleda.
Yes, well, you can go to aleidasolis.com, my website. I have a form there if you want to get in touch with me. I am also very active over social media, still existing Twitter/X or whatever you want to call it. I am very active still until it dies or whatever. Reachable also over LinkedIn if you want to add me there too. And SEO FOMO if you want to keep up with the latest SEO news, updates, jobs. I feature like the best in SEO every week there. Subscribe to at seofomo.co, and you will be able to keep up with the latest in SEO.
The busiest woman in the industry. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It has been a joy to speak with you.
Bye. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.